Welcome to Tiffany's Tips. Listen, today I have 4-time Emmy Award-winning journalist, professor, a woman of essence. She's so graceful, so humbled, and one of the sweetest women I know. Today I have the privilege of having as a guest Brenda Blackmon. Welcome to Tiffany's Tips.
Why, thank you. I was going, where is she? Who is she talking about? What? Oh, my goodness.
Oh, my. I want to thank you so much for being on Tiffany's Tips.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me. You know I don't do this anymore.
I know. This is an honor. You know, she is a anchor. I have watched her on TV for so many years, and usually I would be extremely nervous, but Brenda Blackmon is so sweet that I am so comfortable in looking to this occasion for her giving you a little knowledge about herself and for her just sharing, because she interviews the world. So now it's time to highlight you, and I'm so happy that you're on Tiffany's Tips and I have the time to do so.
I am the one who's happy because, you know, we get a chance to chat. Can I tell people how we get a chance to chat?
Yes.
Okay, Tiffany does my hair, so we get a chance to chat a lot. You know about beauty shops and barber shops and how that is where you really chat. We chat about everything. So she is the expert, and also we talk about spiritual things.
We talk about a lot of spiritual things.
And that's important too, because when you have someone you can toss things about back and forth, and someone who understands, and when you can talk about your spiritual life, that's important, right?
Right. It absolutely is important. Brenda, I'm going to get started with the interview.
I was going to say, you're not going to cry, are you? Because if you start to cry, it's over. It's over.
She's amazing. I'm telling you, she's absolutely amazing. And it was our secret. I didn't know if she wanted people to know that I occasionally do her hair, but thank you for sharing.
Oh, please, she's so good at it. Look at her. Isn't she gorgeous?
Oh, my goodness. This is an amazing interview. Brenda, you have had an extraordinary career in journalism, anchoring for decades in major markets. What first inspired you to pursue a career in broadcasting?
I can't take the credit for it. I mean, it was really God. I mean, God in so many ways. First of all, I walked into a television station in my hometown.
Really?
I was going to apply for a job as a receptionist because I had been a telephone operator. Back in the day, remember remember the TV days of someone saying, "Operator, may I help you?" Well, that is what I used to do.
Wow.
That is what I used to do. So that is a job I applied for. Mm-hmm. It just so happens, and that shows you, when God comes in, it just so happens they had fired their only black reporter the day I walked in. And that was in the early days of affirmative action when everybody had to have at least one. So I fit the bill. I was black and female. He was black and male. So it was like they lost one, they needed one. So I talked to the news director. He said, can you be a reporter, or have you ever wanted to be a reporter? I said, yes, I've wanted to all my life.
Yes, of course. Sounds like divine intervention to me.
Sounds like that to me, too. Yeah. So that is what I did. I did an apprenticeship, as it was called in those days, rather than an internship. I learned it all from the bottom up.
Wow.
I learned how to shoot film, edit it, write the stories, go out to the interviews. There's nothing that I haven't done. So I learned it all, and then came the possibility of me to anchor the news. He wanted me to anchor a 5-minute newscast, and then he wanted a co-anchor to do it with me. It was 5 minutes with about 3 minutes of commercials. I said, I think I can do this by myself. So that is what I did, my first newscast.
Wow. Now, that's an amazing story. Like I said, that's divine intervention for a beautiful career that you have. Now, before entering journalism, you were a plus-size model. How did that experience shape your confidence and career path? I want to hear about this because, as plus-size sisters, I would love to hear the story.
First of all, where did you find out about that story?
Through Wikipedia.
I always tell my students, do not go to Wikipedia for your sources. Wikipedia got it all wrong.
Really?
One photo equals one story that ends up on Wikipedia, and they got it all wrong.
Wow.
Back in the day, we said in order to have a news story, you have to have at least two sources, and they have to be credible sources. You can't go by fake news. That story came about because my daughter and I were in Nashville, and the anchors and their children decided to, well, we didn't decide. Someone decided to have a mall, go to Fashion Mall, and we were on a runway raising money by wearing fashions from the local stores.
Right.
The other anchors were tiny, cute things.
Of course.
I was a nice, full-figured thing. So I needed a size 18. So I needed to get my fashion from a Lane Bryant store.
Gotcha.
3-piece outfit. I was about a size 18 at the time. So they talked about all of the fashions and the stores they came from. And of course, they talked about mine came from Lane Bryant. Ta-da!
Made you.
I was a full fashion model from one Sunday afternoon wearing a Lane Bryant outfit.
Oh my stars, what a story.
Took off, and it's been on websites ever since.
Oh my. Even when you do your research, you can't always just assume everything is true. Even from Wikipedia.
But being called a model was like, okay, I'll let it go for a while.
Yes. Now, you were the first Black anchor in Columbus, Georgia. What was the experience like, and what challenges did you face breaking barriers in this industry?
Well, first of all, being an anchor, I mean, it sounds really good, but I can remember one of the first stories that I went out on as a reporter, and I was first on the scene. How exciting is that, right?
Yeah, it's exciting.
So there was a robbery at a store. I went in, I said, hi, my name is Brenda Blackmon. I work at WRBL TV. By the way, WRBL stood for We Rebel TV. So there was a Confederate soldier on the front of the building. So I said, I'd like to ask you some questions about what happened. She goes, I don't talk to no N-word. So a little stunned, but I said, thank you very much, and stood back until a white reporter got there, got the information. I listened while he got the information, and I went back to the station and reported on it. So it sounded like I didn't get the exclusive, but indeed I did. But there were lots of stories like that. But because it was my hometown, I often went to stories and thought, oh Lord, please don't let this be a neighbor, a friend, a cousin who's just been shot or who's been in an accident, because it was a small town and you don't want that to be the case.
Of course.
But the one thing that was unusual that happened one day was I knocked on the door doing a story and interviewed at someone's house, and the person who answered the door was my next door neighbor, but he was the butler at the house.
Wow.
And I had only been used to calling him Mr. So-and-so.
Of course.
And he just said, may I help you? And I said, I paused for a moment and I said, yes, sir, I'd like to talk with him, and he said, right this way. And I was just, I felt bad for him, but this was his job.
Of course.
And I proceeded to go on, and we did the story, and I thanked him so much afterwards. And we never spoke of it again. But, because he was still my neighbor, and I still had the ultimate respect for him. But I thought, well, this is my town, and this is where I live.
Thank you for sharing your history, and thank you for paving the way for so many, because God called me now to do a podcast, but you paved the way for anchors, for podcasts, for, we really appreciate you.
Oh, so many others have paved the way for me. I always talk about my Grandma Jane, who was a slave, and I always say I speak up because she could not. She died at the plow because she said, I'm tired, I'm sick, I can't go anymore. And the slave master said, you have to keep going.
Yes.
So she died on the feel that day. So I always say, I speak for her.
And what a voice. What a voice that God granted you to be able to speak on behalf of not only your grandmother, but our ancestors. You have received 4 Emmys, 15 nominations. Now, is this true? Because I got this from Wikipedia as well. And prestigious honors like the Edward R. Monroe Awards and multiple associated press awards. How does it feel to have your work recognized on such, not Emmys, a high level?
Well, it's real cool when I'm standing at my treadmill and I have a lot of plaques on the wall, so I can always look at those as I'm listening to a motivational presentation in the morning. But a lot of the times I'm just closing my eyes, trying to get through, at least 15 minutes on the treadmill. But it feels good, but it feels better when I can remember that it's humbling, first of all, and it's just a stepping stone to other things that I need to do. A reminder that this journey is not over and that I must encourage others, because it's definitely just something that I got a chance to do, and not everyone gets a chance to do that. You must encourage others along the way. I started out wanting to educate kids when I was teaching little ones in Sunday school in my hometown.
Really?
And then I got to teach at Fairleigh Dickinson University, and I even got a chance to come up with my own class, my own subject matter in class. So you want to be an anchor. They allowed me to do that. I've written a couple of books, and now I teach at Bergen. And I love education. I believe I'll never forget my parents told me. My mother was a registered nurse. My father was a barber. He did not get a chance to finish high school. But they said education is the one thing nobody can take away from you.
They cannot take it from you.
Yes, so that means so much to me.
Thank you for answering my question.
I hope I did. I tend to go around and around.
That's okay. Your hometown honored you as one of the century's most influentials. What does that recognition mean to you?
Well, at the time it meant, oh my God, I'll get a chance to go back and see so many people who influenced my life, who made such a difference in my life. And one of the people who was there was my very best friend, who had been there for decades, and we got a chance to do everything from go to bowling alleys together to not grow up together because I didn't meet her until later on. But when I had moved here, she was able to go to my mother, be with my mother for such a long time. You know how when you move away and someone is there with your parents when you can't be? So that's who she was for me.
Aww. So it was a nice reunion at the time.
It's so wonderful. And for people to see me in that light, and you think people aren't noticing you, but they are indeed.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. I'm aspiring to this as I'm in college right now. You graduated. I'm trying, Lord. Let's see if we can do it.
You can.
Magna cum laude with a BA and a MPA from Fairleigh Dickinson University, and you now serve on the board of trustees. How has education played a role in your success?
Well, I'm no longer on the board of trustees because I also served on the board of the Lupus Research Association, but I don't have the time anymore because I'm just, as you can imagine, teaching takes up a lot of time. I'm teaching at Bergen, but I was so afraid when I was in some of those classes at Fairleigh. I would sit in the front of the class because I was trying so hard to get it right. And I did not want to fail from the professor. Oh my goodness, I met my husband at Fairleigh. We were both.
Really?
Yes.
Her husband is sitting over here.
We were both working on our masters.
Wow.
And he said, I would try to get your attention in class, but you just would stare at the professor the whole time. I said, I don't know who else was in the class. If someone later came up to me and said, I was in your class, and I would say, I don't know you were there. All I know is I knew who the professor was. I looked at him. I made sure he noticed that I was trying hard.
Yes, that sounds familiar. Yes.
Even when I was in undergrad, I have a friend of mine now who taught one of my undergrad classes. She goes, I'll never forget. I was grading papers, and I was reading one of the papers, and my husband said, you don't recognize that student? And she said, what do you mean? You recognize the paper of this student? She goes, look at the work she sent you. Look at the papers. Look at the pictures. And she goes, what? And he goes, Brenda Blackmon, you don't know who she is?
Wow.
And she said, what do you mean? He said, do you look again? So it was just funny, because I would work at the day and in the evenings, and I would go to classes in the mornings. You know that, right? The kind of sacrifice you have to make.
Sacrifice, yes.
So I started a journalism retreat, because what I was learning at some of the colleges is that they had professors who didn't even have televisions, but were teaching.
Yes.
And I thought, there's more they can learn, because I'm out there in the field every day, and there's more they can learn, and not that I can teach, but that others can teach them. I started a retreat. I started it first out of my home.
That's nice.
And then I moved into the Channel 9 studios. So I had producers, directors, writers, and even some executives from the station to come out. And photographers. We had the students to learn firsthand what it's like to be on TV, to produce a story, to write it, to direct it. And they would shoot their own stories and then show it back on the big screen there in the studio at the end of the day. And we fed them. When we were in my home, Mom McKnight, my New Jersey mom, would cook like a Thanksgiving dinner. And when we came to the studios, I would order food, and I had a set of volunteers who were just fabulous. But they all wanted to help and teach so that they could learn. And I did that for 10 years. And then some of the organizations actually started doing it as well. So I said, the job is done.
Wow.
But I love education that much.
The lives that you have impacted during that time, and I would love to hear from them now, because I know their journey was inspired, and they were encouraged during this process. And you taught them, probably poured into them so much about journalism that they didn't realize. So that is absolutely amazing. You continue to touch lives. Now, Professor.
Oh my.
Professor, what advice, being that you are a professor at Bergen Community, what advice can you give your students at Bergen Community College, where I attend myself, where you teach public speaking, about using their platform in multiple careers? What advice do you have for them?
Well, I now teach public speaking, and what I put on the front of my webpage or my introductory page is teach one, take one, think one. And that is kind of my motto.
Yes.
It is teach one, so share what you've learned and teach others. Take one day at a time, and think one. For me, that is God. For you, that can be whom you want.
Right.
Thank the light, thank yourself, your Savior, whatever or whomever that shall be. But you need to say thank you to someone, something, or someone every single day. And I have my own personal one. I'll just say personal one. And that's Isaiah. Be just and fair to all. Do what is right and good. And I encourage all my students to, as you are given, to give back and do so in that way. I tell them it's important to give back because that is how you learn, that is how you get outside yourself, and it just makes the world a better place.
It most certainly does. It most certainly does. Now, as a Black woman in journalism, what progress have you seen in diversity and representation in the industry, and what still needs to be done, in your opinion?
Well, just from the looking on TV perspective,
And now social media
as a whole nother thing. Well, first of all, thank God you no longer have to look a certain way. You can wear your hair any way you want to. You can put any kind of jewels in any places you like.
Any places.
You can be any size you want.
Yes.
You can be tall or short. You can be any of the, I do not know all of the initials, so please help me.
No, LBC.
We won't even go there,
right.
But you can be who you want to be. You can be yourself. You can be real.
Yeah.
And it does not matter. It should not matter. And that is important because back in the day, in fact, I was looking in my research for this interview. There was a woman, she was white female in Dallas, Texas. She said when she first started in television, she used to wear the boxy shoulder pads and the gauchos, and had to wear her hair a certain
Yes, I remember.
and had to wear makeup with blue eyeshadow, and she said it was painful, the high heel shoes she had to wear every day, but she had to have a certain look, and men who were the only ones in positions of power had to tell her how to dress.
Wow.
And of course everyone wrote letters, and those letters represented so many thousands of viewers, whereas now it's instant.
Yes.
Facebook, Twitter, all the social, all of the social media, who can instantly say, we don't like her, we hate her, and these are the reasons. And the abuse. But I tell my students, remember, when you walk out of your dwelling every single day, remember, showtime, because you could be a news story, you could be the target of someone's anger just because you are you. So just put your best foot forward, be kind. It's difficult to attack someone who is kind all the time.
That is true.
And be gentle.
Be gentle. Now, you have a beautiful daughter named Kelly. Hey, Kelly, how are you? Your daughter's journey with lupus has inspired the Kelly Fund for Lupus. Can you tell us about the mission of this foundation and the work you've done to raise awareness?
That is such a long story because it started in 2008. That's when I actually founded the Kelly Fund because of Kelly. As you know, it's been a long journey. I mean, literally taking Kelly from fighting for her life. But let me just say the best part, which is today. Kelly is now president. I am no longer president. She has taken that position. I am now in a COO position. But Kelly is now a licensed social worker and clinical therapist who meets with chronic ill patients daily. So her work now coincides with the initial mission of the Kelly Fund because of its similarities and relationships to other chronic illnesses. So what she does now just really falls back to God. And what she does helps people and continues to help people. So we do so many things. And you can still go to the website and contribute to our efforts. But also, and we worked with the Lupus Research Alliance for decades. And they have a mission that's global. And ours is global too. In fact, we actually launched the first book that I wrote to raise money for it in Bermuda. And so we are global too. But you know what? We're narrowing our efforts down to churches and communities where we have more people who look like us. Because it primarily attacks minority women. Of course, it attacks others as well, but we know that we don't speak out in our own communities. So therefore, we're trying to go back to our basics and where we started and talk more one-on-one and in small groups in churches, community centers, so that we can help each other.
Yes, because I do know, unfortunately, I know a couple of Black women that are dealing with lupus. So I am going to put them in contact with you because everyone needs support when you're in the process of healing and when you're in the process of being a miracle. Mm-hmm. Now, what has been some of the biggest challenges and victories in your advocacy efforts?
Well, I think the fact that we have come such a long ways in research, mm-hmm. It's such a big help. And also to know that funding for research, which is expensive, extremely expensive, has helped. And that's what the board of LRA does. And it does such a magnificent job. There are more scientists, and that work continues. But there's so much more that needs to be done. There's still no cure. Mm-hmm. There's still no known cure. Mm-hmm. We still don't know how. There's still so many questions. But fortunately, there are so many answers. There are more trials, mm-hmm. and there are more people who know that it's okay to be in a trial.
Yes.
And that has helped a lot.
Now, how can people get involved in supporting the Kelly Fund for Lupus?
They can do so by going straight to the website, thekellyfundforlupus.org. They can also participate in the walks that the LRA does, the Lupus Research Alliance. There's one coming up this May. So you can go, that's right, you can go to sign up for the walk. And there are walks year-round, not only here but elsewhere. There are virtual walks if you're not able to get to the walk. And also people with lupus have a hard time getting to things, because of the symptoms of lupus.
Okay. Well, please don't hesitate. Let's support Kelly and so many others as they walk towards healing. Now, after such an impactful career, what's next for you? Any new projects you're an author? What's next?
Well, there is not so much a next as there is just a continuing.
Okay.
For instance, I do motivational or inspirational words every day.
Yes, you do.
And if I don't publish them every day, I publish them maybe once a week, or I do any day motivations on my Facebook, Twitter, as I try and find them on my phone again, on my Facebook, Twitter, my social media pages.
Yes, and we'll post them. We'll have.
Okay.
It'll be edited in.
Okay.
Yes.
On my Facebook, Twitter, Instagram pages. I'm on LinkedIn, but I do not really participate much on LinkedIn. I don't do threads anymore.
Yeah.
I've never done TikTok. And I'm just too busy.
Gotcha.
And the kids at Bergen keep me busy.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Now, as we come to a close, what words of wisdom would you like to share with our audience, especially those looking to make a meaningful impact in their career and communities?
Oh, I've heard so many words of wisdom coming from so many people. Be real, be yourself, breathe. I know it's some basics, but do that. Do for yourself. Self-help.
Yes.
And don't go to Wikipedia.
Wow. Pray.
Meditate, exercise. When it came to going from 180 to the size I am now.
But you're looking amazing.
Oh, you're so kind. But when people tell you what to do, know that no matter where you are on those scales or in life, you are worthy.
Yes, you are. Definitely. You are enough. You're worthy.
Yes, and you are enough no matter what. Yes. And don't listen to those other voices. Absolutely. Listen to the voice in your connection with your own personal light. Be connected to a light that's a leader, that leads you. Have your people, but be be smart enough to know when to disconnect from some people.
Yes.
Those people who are not with you.
Yes.
If you are connected to the light, you will know who's not with you. You will know when it's time to disconnect from them. Wisdom comes when you ask for it. If you say your prayers every day, more than once a day, things will come to you. You will know. You will not have to share it. You will not have to talk about it, but you will know. You will walk a different walk.
Yeah.
You will talk a different talk, and time will show it. You will walk with a smile on your face, and people will wonder why you smile. Let them wonder.
Wow. Mrs. Brenda Blackmon, I want to thank you so much for being a beautiful, virtuous gift to me and so many others today. I want to thank you for being here on Tiffany's Tips.
Thank you so very much.
You are welcome. Beautiful, creative, kind, graceful, gifting, inspiring, phenomenal, passionate, powerful, educated, loving, nurturing, radiant, matriarch, mother, wife, and queen. And I definitely salute you and celebrate you. Tiffany's Tips here. Have a blessed one. Love you, women.